Well, what is up, Eastern Hills? Welcome to our pre-service show. We are live, and we are so glad that you've joined us. My name is Anthony. I'm the finance and HR guy here at Eastern Hills.
My name is Kendall. I'm the Reach Out pastor, and we have people in the room right now. We have all of you joining us online. We are so excited to be here together this weekend.
112 days since we had church in the building.
112 days. That is crazy.
How about it?
Hey, one of the things that's happening right now, Anthony, is this stuff is starting to open back up. You know, I've heard you can go back to a gym.
Who cares?
I didn't go before, but I'm probably not going to go now. But what about this? What about movie theaters? I hear they're about to open. This has made me realize how disgusting movie theaters are, right?
And how expensive.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going back anytime soon. But question to get us started in the chat is, what is your favorite movie? What's your favorite movie? Let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite movie, Anthony?
So my favorite movie, kind of growing up, huge basketball fan, loved this movie in the 80s, Hoosiers. That's my movie. What about you, Kendall? Favorite movie?
Hoosiers is a good one. That's good. My favorite movie that I tell everyone is Shawshank Redemption.
What's your real favorite?
My actual favorite movie, Three Amigos.
Three Amigos, a
So
comedy
good.
classic.
Yeah.
Can I dare you to do the Three Amigos thing?
Nope.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
it's inappropriate for church.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah, share that in the chat. If you're joining us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Church Online, share what your favorite movie is. If you're joining us in the room, you can open up the Eastern Hills app and you can chat with us there as well. But let us know your favorite movie, and we want to share those with you. So speaking of sharing, we would love for you to share whatever platform you're on, the stream, so that your friends and connections can know all about it. So share that with them, and we would love for them to join with you as we're watching together this morning. So favorite movie. The first one that came in was from Johnny Kluver. His favorite movie is Miracle. Good call there, Johnny. Miracle. We've got, somebody's been saying that John's been getting ignored, so that's my fault.
Oh, whoops.
There's a grandma on here that said Sound of Music is her favorite.
Oh, I'm looking at the same chat as you. That's my problem. I need to be on a different one.
Liz is saying one of her favorites is Top Gun. That's good.
And I'm assuming looking forward to the new version that's
new
coming
one.
out.
We got another Three Amigos here. Tyler S. on YouTube. Way to go, Tyler.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
He's probably doing the thing.
Yeah, he
at
is.
home.
Yep.
That's good. So, yes, keep sharing that. Let us know what your favorite movie is, and we will hear all about that here. So we are starting our new series called One Another.
Yes.
What's that all about?
Hey, One Another is the series that we're starting. We're really excited about it. We're kind of almost using that as a verb, that we are one anothering people during this time. That phrase is used over 100 times in the New Testament. And so we're going to look at different places throughout the New Testament where we're called to love one another, encourage one another, do these different things. And what better time than now, as we're interacting with our neighbors, the people around us more often, a great reminder for us. So we're really looking forward to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Dustin's saying his favorite movie is Pirates of the Caribbean 1. The Phelps family is chiming in. Good to see you, Jason and family. Let us know what your favorite movie is.
Paige says her favorite movie is Mean Girls.
Mean Girls. Good.
And then Shannon says Elizabethtown, but she had a different one the last 2 services. So, come on, Shannon. Is that really your favorite movie?
Yeah, let's be consistent here.
Yeah, whatever.
Liz is saying that sequels often never do movies justice.
That's
true.
Fair. Blake likes the movie True Lies.
True Lies.
Yeah, I can't think of that one right now, but yeah, sounds
right.
good.
Megan Stahlberg says Hunger Games all night. Good job.
That
I
movie
think.
scares me.
Yeah, I'm ready for the 4th book. I wonder if there's probably going to be a movie for that, but can't wait to hear all about that. Way to go, Megan. Good to see you here.
V says he likes the movie Sharknado. You're wrong, V. That's just, you're not even.
I think that's called trolling us.
Right,
He's trolling us.
exactly.
Yes.
And Phil says the Emoji Movie is legitimately one of Maisie's favorites.
Well, there you
that
go.
makes sense,
There you
yeah.
go. So speaking of our One Another class, our One Another series, we've also got an online class to go along with that throughout the week. And so we would love for you to join us Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. We're going to dive deeper a little bit into the content that we covered during the weekend. So join us for our online class Thursday night at 8, and we will be able to kind of, like I said, dive deeper into stuff that we talk about during the weekend.
Michael says his favorite movie is Remember the Titans. Oh, such a good one. Watched it recently. Jen says Facing the Giants.
All right, there you
There you
go.
go.
Jason Phelps says Princess Bride. That's good. I like that movie.
Very cool.
Anybody else over there?
No, just a lot of good mornings.
All right,
Must
well-
have missed the question. That's all right.
Tommy
Good.
says Bugs Life 2. Bugs Life 1 wasn't good
I
enough.
guess not good enough. Yeah.
That's good. So, yeah, if you're joining us for the first couple of times, special welcome to you. We are so glad that you've joined us. Kendall, tell them how they can get connected.
Yeah, we'd love for you to connect with us. ehills.org/connect is a great place. Fill out a connect card there. We would love to connect with you digitally, follow up with you, get to know a little bit about you and how we can help you get connected here at Eastern Hills.
Absolutely. And, you know, a lot of these things that we're doing here, online stuff and limited folks in the auditorium, love it. And it's all still made possible because of your generosity. You know, this past week we had Bible Sports Camp. And if you choose to give here at Eastern Hills, you gave to help support something like Bible Sports Camp. So as a parent, can I just tell you thank you for offering that for my my 5th grader to be able to enjoy that this week. So thanks so much for being part. If you've had to pause your giving during this kind of quarantine, maybe you've lost a job or you're trying to care for your family well, man, thanks for doing that. Like, legitimately, there's no shame, no guilt in that. Thanks for doing that. And we just love that you're able to join in and to give here when you are able. So if you are a part of that team that gives, thanks so much for being part of that team to help everyone experience that Jesus makes life better.
Corey says she likes the movie Couples Retreat. That's a really funny one.
That is funny.
Shannon also said back on the chat that she has multiple favorite movies. She's just trying to keep me on my toes. So sorry I called you out, Shannon. You
That's
can have as
right.
many favorite movies as you want.
Lisa mentioned that True Lies has Arnold and Tom Arnold. Is that right? There's
interesting.
Like 2 Arnolds. Kelly Wright says Rocky. That's a solid answer there, Kelly. Good
That
job.
is.
Lion Queen 3. I feel like I might be getting trolled again.
Yeah, that doesn't feel right.
Stephanie Mitchell is saying hi, church family. Hello, hello. Good to see you. Anybody else over there?
Nope, that's enough. That's all we got time for. But you guys, great job in the chat. I have one more question for you. This is going to be Phil's question that he asked at the top of his message. The question is, what was or is the hardest subject in school for you? Anthony, what was the hardest subject in school for you?
Yeah, so anything not math related was probably the hardest thing. I had to choose a math subject. Oh, I was like an algebra guy, so I'm going to go with geometry. That was not my favorite subject. What about you?
For me, exact opposite. Anything but math I was fine with. I did not understand math. The only part of math I understood, geometry. So we're just exactly the opposite there.
Awesome. So throw that in the chat. Let us know. Phil is going to mention that at the top here of his message. But we are ready to get started here. We've got to reset the stage here. That's going to take about a minute and a half. So if you're at home, you can go fill up your coffee one last time. If you're sitting here in the room, sit back, relax. We've got 90 seconds, and that 90 seconds starts right now.
Well, hey, welcome to church. You guys feeling alive? Ready to sing? Come on, let's sing. Hey.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. Yeah. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb, yeah, till I met you. You called my name, and I ran out that grave. Out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out that grave. Out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. And now your freedom is all that I know. Oh, they all made new. Jesus, when I met you, you called my name. Come on, and I ran out that grave. Out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out that grave. And out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Come on, let's sing this together. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was
treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along, come on, and put me back together. It's every desire's now satisfied. Hearing your love, every voice. So there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing that's better than you. Oh, I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. That's right. Because the God of the mountain is the God of the valley, and there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Come on, believe this morning. So there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing gets better than you. So there's nothing God, we thank you for that truth. God, I know that this past season, it's felt like anything but a garden. But God, we can rest in the fact that you take what was meant for evil and you just turn it for good. You take what we've been going through, what this year has been, and you're turning it in to one of the most beautiful gardens. And God, we just can't wait to see it. God, we ask that you be with us, by our side, through just the days to come, the year to come, that we would see your light. We would be guided by it. God, we thank you for your faithfulness. We thank you for the chance to gather online, but in the room as well. To sing songs, sing praises, have fun, reach out to you. God, we love you, and we're so thankful. And all together we said, amen, amen. Well, hey, welcome to Eastern Hills. Whether you're joining us online or in the room, you can grab a seat.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us online. A bunch of you are doing that. And we actually have human beings in the room this morning. Way to go, guys. Thank you so much. So glad that you're here. I was telling folks all weekend, this is the most nervous and excited I've ever been to speak to 100 people in my life. So thanks for being here. Last night, we actually had a couple that told me, hey, we started watching kind of during this time online. We've never been here physically to the building, but like this was our first time last night, and that was amazing. I was like, wow, we made you guys jump through a lot of hoops to come for your very first time here. Thanks for doing that. And I called them out in service last night, so I'm sure we'll never see them again, but it was cool. I'm glad they came one time. So hey, thanks so much for being here though, or joining us online. As I mentioned, we are beginning a new series this week called One Another. And I know that there's a lot of things right now that feel out of control. There are a lot of things that maybe feel like you wish you could do something about it, but you're kind of wondering what you can do. And over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about some very practical ways that we can show up for one another. And today we're going to talk about how we love one another, which is this giant umbrella that really informs everything else we do for one another. Specifically those of us who would say, I'm a follower of Jesus. What does it look like for me to be in community with other people trying to do the same? But before we get started, I'm going to pray. And if you've never been here before, never heard me speak, I pray kneeling. And there's something unique that happens when we humble ourselves before God, that he will speak to us in a way that maybe we're more prepared to listen. He will give grace to us in maybe a way that we're ready to receive it. So before we begin, would you just pray with me? God, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity for some of us to be physically gathered in this space, God. I hope it's something that we do not soon forget, that we do not take this for granted again. Thank you for the chance to be able to sing together, whether we're here in the room or watching somewhere in a living room or on a phone or wherever we are, God, that we can be united in you. I pray that you would speak to us at our core level about what it means to both receive and give the love of God. We love you. We pray that you be with us now. It's in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, I asked you a question in the chat a few minutes ago, which is what was, or if you're still in school, what is the hardest subject in school for you. Some of you, this is like a long time ago, and some of you, this is very, very recent. I've heard some folks, even Anthony and Kendall talking about this. They were kind of debating math. Math was definitely my most difficult subject in school, but not the way you think. For me, it was the like really, really easy stuff of math I would constantly go sideways on, and the really hard stuff I actually did really well in for some really bizarre reason. I couldn't tell you why. And I think lots of us, whether it's a specific subject in school or something bigger in life, we're trying to figure out, hey, what's the lesson I'm supposed to be learning in this time? Some of you answered your subjects. Rylan on the app said probably history was his most difficult subject. Luana on Church Online said college physics. Those would have been brutal for me. I went to a Bible college. We didn't have any of that stuff. Alexis on Facebook said math was the hardest for me. I get you, Alexis. And then on YouTube, Jason said calculus was the first class I didn't get immediately. Ended up dropping it a few weeks later for psychology. I'll just put it this way. This is the way I was academically as a kid. If I would have dropped every class that I didn't get immediately, I would have never taken any classes. So that's good for you, Jason. Fantastic. Glad it worked out. But I think all of us can relate to this fact of, hey, there was some stuff that was challenging, and in the middle of it, we're trying to figure out, what am I supposed to learn in the middle of this? What am I supposed to take away in the middle of this? And with school, that's one thing, but with everything that's going on kind of all around the world, I don't know about you, I'm ready for 2021 now. Like if there's just a way we can just hop on over to January, right? With everything that's going on, I think we're all kind of wondering, hey, God, what is the lesson you want us to learn in the middle of this? What is it that I'm supposed to be learning from you? And I hope that over the next few minutes, we're going to be reminded that from God, love is the lesson. As a matter of fact, it's always been the lesson. That sometimes where we get in trouble is we decide to make it more complicated. And just like for me in math, we're onto these really heavy, hard, intellectually rigorous things, and we've forgotten the very basics of what it is God did for us and what it is he asks us to do in response. We're actually going to see that where we begin is this heart that Jesus has for the way you and I would show up in the lives of one another. And it's this idea of calling card love. You know, you used to leave these cards behind that said who you were, that you would stop by. And Jesus said, the calling card for followers of Jesus, the way that people are going to really know who you are, the way you'll stand out in the world, is the way you show love for one another. And so we're going to talk about that over the next few minutes. And if you were with us a few weeks ago, we took communion. Communion happened at the final meal that Jesus had with his friends before he would be betrayed, go hang on the cross for us, and die on our behalf. That's the meal that we were at, remembering where Jesus had taken the bread that they'd experienced their whole life, and he said, now remember it as my body broken for you. Taking the cup and said, this is now a reminder of my blood poured out for you. And we're in that same scene, we're in that same situation where Jesus has told all of his friends something so incredibly important. But before we get there, I want to ask you another social media question you can answer in any platform you're responding to, which is, outside of your family, who was the most loving person in your life growing up? Outside of your family, who was the most loving person in your life growing up? For me, her name was Mary Arth. My family had moved. I grew up in Ohio. We moved to New York, then back to Ohio. When we moved back to Ohio, I was there before my parents got there, so I could start school on time. And I made good friends with a guy named Ryan, and his mom, Mary, just became somebody that her home was like a second home, and just was incredibly kind, really, really sweet. And I was annoying. I'm not saying every high school boy is annoying, but like I was, you know? And so she extended so much grace, so much compassion. She was the mom that, like, you could show up unannounced and the door was always open. She would say, hey, do you guys want a snack? And it didn't matter what your answer was, you were gonna have a snack. Like, that was this lady. And she was such a gift to me at a time that I felt pretty vulnerable, a time that I felt pretty lost. I was so thankful for her. So I just wonder, who was that in your life? See, this spot that we drop into for Jesus, he wants to show his followers that even though things are going to go different than according to plan, that he wants them to understand what it truly means to follow him, what it truly means to love him, and when he's not there anymore, how people will recognize them. So as we drop into this meal that we were in a couple weeks ago, Jesus shares with his friends that actually Judas would be the one that would betray him. that Judas, who's sitting around the table with them, was going to sell Jesus out. And then Judas gets up and leaves the room. And I'm sure everybody is freaked out. Everybody that thought back in the day, hey, the Messiah is going to be a conquering king. He's going to take over our community and our world. We're going to be able to be at his right hand. It's going to be amazing. But then Jesus over and over and over again shows them that it's about the kingdom of heaven. It's not a kingdom of this world. It's a kingdom that has no beginning and no end, that he was revealing in this world and inviting us into. So after Judas leaves and everybody's kind of reeling from it, it's recorded by John this way. It says, when he had gone out, Judas, Jesus said, now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him? If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and glorify him at once. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You will seek me, and just as I said to the Jews, now I also say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. This is no coincidence for Jesus, right? He spends some time helping them understand, don't freak out. I know that was really hard, and what you just saw with Judas, you had no idea this was coming. I knew it was coming, and if you think, I hope the plan's still intact, he's like, the plan is still intact. It's not going anywhere. I'm still in control. Everything's gonna work out. As a matter of fact, guys, I'm gonna let you know something. Just like I've been telling everybody about, I'm not gonna be with you in this way for very much longer. Don't worry about it though, because there's still a plan for you. There's still a way that people are going to be able to recognize you. There's still a reason that people are going to follow me because of you. And the way that he introduces this concept is, to us, like, it doesn't sound that crazy. He says, a new commandment I give to you. And when Jesus says that to us, we're like, sounds awesome. Jesus, what's the new command? Let's go. But for the Jewish people 2,000 years ago, even for his earliest followers, they had hundreds of commands that they were trying to follow. And so one more probably was like, you gotta be kidding me, right? Like another one, you know? And Jesus, he starts by saying what they would have been required to say as young Jewish men twice a day their entire life, which was part of the Shema, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then he adds something to it that he's actually been adding to it his entire ministry. When experts in the law said, what's the most important command? He basically answers this way. When an expert in the law a couple weeks ago asked Jesus, what do I have to do to get to heaven? He answers essentially this way. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love others. That's pretty much what he says. Now, what's different about this time is that Jesus says, I want you to love one another as I have loved you. Now, for them, I'm sure they thought, yeah, Jesus, you accepted us when everybody else rejected us. You let us in on your teaching. You let us see miracles, signs, and wonders like no one's ever seen before. Jesus, you're right. If you want us to love other people where we let them into our life, we're going to let them into our life, Jesus. That sounds so difficult, but I'm on board. But the problem is they didn't know what you and I know. Jesus wasn't just talking about the way that he had already loved them. He was talking about the demonstration of love he was about to show them, the greatest act of love that humanity has ever seen or received. He was talking about the fact that for you and me, he was going to lay down his life. He was going to die on our behalf. And so when we look at it, when we think about what this means from Jesus, it means the way that we love one another, the way that we love brothers and sisters who are trying to follow Jesus together, is that we love self-sacrificially. We have to decide whether or not we are going to settle for the way that love shows up in our world today, cheap and temporary and disposable. See, the kind of love that Jesus is talking about, it's a decision. It's not an emotion. We didn't deserve the love that God gave us, but he's given it to us. And once we realize that, once we have that, we can't help but be compelled to give that to other people in our life who also don't deserve it. People who we are frustrated by, people who we are disappointed by. Because here's what I'll tell you, your faith will never grow above your love for others. And so if you've decided that your faith is really, really strong because you know a lot, but you don't love a lot, your faith is not very strong. As a matter of fact, John, who we're reading the account of this scene with Jesus in, John would later write more in the New Testament. In one of those books, he says this idea. I'm sure these words from Jesus are rattling around in his mind as he writes these words penned by the Holy Spirit. It says, hey, here's what I want to tell you. If you love God, if you say you love God, but you hate people, you're lying. Because you can't love God and experience his love back and not love people. And so that's hard, right? That's so difficult for us to take a step back and think, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for how I show up in the lives of other people? It's such an important question because when you and I think about what it means to follow Jesus, the calling card, the way that you and I show up, the way that a watching world sees that we're different is the way that we really care about one another. I asked you a question a few minutes ago. Who was the most loving person in your life growing up? A few of you have answered that online. Pete on Facebook said his best friend's mom, we called her Mama Landis. That's awesome. On YouTube, Megan said any of the 7th grade girls leaders. Look at that, that's so fun. Kendall Church Online, SLS on Church Online said Stella Pond. And Rylan on the app said either Johnny Kluver or Jacob Courtney. That's so fun. And what's so cool about it, right, is that some of those are just weeks ago or people that are still in your life. Some of them are people from decades ago, and you still have that memory, you still have that name, they radiate with you, because when somebody's that invested in you, you can't help but remember it. For some of you, I have watched over the last few months, and while this time has been difficult for all of us, some of you have really thrived, even in the difficult circumstances of where we find ourselves. And the difference has been we're a pretty big church, and it's easy if you let yourself to just kind of come in occasionally to a room like this, check the box that you're doing the right stuff and that you're good with God, but not really invest in community, not really be thinking about what we do for one another. It's really just a consumer experience for you to come and spectate. That's been very, very difficult over the last few months for you because you haven't had that same opportunity. But for those of you who have been invested, for those of you who are involved, for those of you who are in community, as difficult as this has all been, it has been far easier for you because you've continued the pattern of loving one another. The great news is it's not too late. The great news is that you could actually engage in these things still today. You could get involved today. As a matter of fact, many times when folks will say, here's the thing I want to be different about church, here's the thing I want to be different about my experience, totally great, I want the feedback, but I also think what we need to be able to take a step back and think about and look at in the mirror is to say, how is my loving one another going as a member of this community? If other people looked at the way that I loved one another, would they see that our life and that our connection to God is different, or would we look just like everybody else looks? This is just one more hobby, one more consumer thing. We could change our church in a very small amount of time if we were willing to lead with love with one another. For many of us, we're more concerned about winning an argument on social media than we are winning hearts through love. For many of us, we're more committed to making a point than making a difference, and we will have to choose one. You will have to choose whether or not you are willing to lean in and make a difference in someone else's life. And Jesus says, if you and I will do that, if we will do that in the lives of other brothers and sisters following Jesus together, a watching world will see it and respond. Because you know what? Love is the lesson. If you're wondering, what is the history I don't want to repeat? What is the thing I want to learn through this time? That another difficult thing is coming up. Hopefully not soon, but another difficult thing is coming up. And we are going to get to the other side of what we're facing right now. But if you don't learn that love is the lesson, you will be destined to repeat the same thing over and over. As a matter of fact, not only does Jesus say that the way we love one another like he loved us is so central to the watching world, but there's also this idea of law-fulfilling love that we need to know about. As a matter of fact, we're going to hear it from the Apostle Paul, this church planter and leader in the first century. He's going to show us how love is the central driver of what it means for you and me to find and follow Jesus in the world. Well, the religious authorities in the day of Jesus thought it was all about the rules that they followed. Jesus and the New Testament authors over and over communicated that the way that God sees you and me loving him is the way we love people. And it's not just the golden rule, right? It's not just how do I love people the way I want to be loved. Jesus says it's the platinum rule. You love people the way I loved you. Here's the question I'd love for you to answer in the chat over the next few minutes. What was the most important thing you accomplished this month? We're almost to the end of June. We're almost to July. If you think about June, what was something that you've accomplished? Maybe it was something around the house because you had a little bit more time. That's great. Maybe for you, it was something at work where you had to make a quick change. Maybe it was a school thing. Maybe it was something with somebody in your life, some hobby or skill. What was something that you think back and go, man, I really feel like this is going to make a difference? For me, when I think back to the last month, a couple weeks ago, we had a conversation about how, it's easy to divide Jesus and faith up between conviction and compassion, that actually Jesus actually holds both conviction and compassion. We don't get to choose one when we choose to follow Jesus. And then we had these 4 conversations that you don't normally hear all 4 of them in a row, but we had a conversation last week around the sanctity of life, around poverty globally and locally, around sexuality, and around race. And it was such a great week of conversations. And it wasn't really my voice, like it was me interviewing some really amazing leaders in those areas, and just hearing their perspective, and then you guys joining in on the conversation online. And for me, I look back and I go, I hope those make a difference. I hope that we see over time that God uses those over the long haul. Now, where we're gonna dive into, we actually were just a couple weeks ago in Romans 12. And I told you that, I'll tell you again, that Romans is a unique letter in the New Testament because Paul is writing about the gospel. What does it mean for you and me to come to know Jesus? And he talks about, through the first 11 chapters, the problem of the fact that we've fallen short, that we'll never get to God on our own. And it's only out of God's love that he sent his son to die in your and my place. And now we can have a new life in him. And then in chapter 12, a couple weeks ago, we talked about the fact that we can live differently. We can be living sacrifices. We can be transformed. And then just the next chapter, in Romans 13, Paul says, "Owe no one anything except to love each other. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. For the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and any other commandments are summed up in this word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law." Remember, Jesus just said it's not about the golden rule. You want to treat other people like you want to be treated. He says it's about this way bigger platinum rule. You love other people the way that I love you. And actually, when we see the early church in Acts 2, what we see is they had things in common. They would sell stuff to be able to provide for other people. They were in one another's life. They weren't compelled to, but the love of God compelled them to. And now here Jesus says, if you want to fulfill the entire law, the hundreds of rules you've been trying to follow your entire life, here's what it means to follow that. In following me, Paul says, here's what you have to do. You love your neighbor as you love yourself. And a couple weeks ago, we had an expert in law ask Jesus, who is my neighbor? And if you weren't with us, what he was really asking was, who doesn't have to be my neighbor? And the answer really is that everybody in your life is your neighbor. Everybody in your life is somebody created in the image of God with infinite dignity, value, and worth. Everybody in your life is somebody to be loved, especially the people you were hoping weren't on that list. And so when we take a step back and we look at what Paul's talking about, he's talking about a specific problem in the culture that he's in. See, there was this thing called social reciprocity where basically everybody was in this arrangement where they were trying to do things for other people so that that other person would owe them. And so you had this kind of social contract that you worked on over and over and over again, trying to have as many people as possible owe you, and you owe as few people as possible. But Paul wanted to change the way people related to one another. He wanted this idea that he was going to challenge us to respond to the love of God by loving all people without expectation of return, realizing that that's exactly the way God has loved us. That even people who don't like you, people who are nothing like you, people who don't follow God, that you could love them as you love yourself, that you love one another, other followers of Jesus, following the self-sacrificial model of Jesus, and you love your neighbor as yourself. That is so different and yet so incredibly important. Just a few minutes ago, I asked you this question. I said, what was the most important thing you accomplished this month? And some of you answered online. Ryan on YouTube said, helping my family with chores. I'm sure they appreciate that. Linder on Church Online said, our 25th wedding anniversary. Congratulations, that's amazing. Brittany on Facebook said, sticking to a cleaning rotation around the house. Fantastic. And on the app, Kennedy said, getting to compete in gymnastics, not thinking I was going to get to. That's fun. You know, when we think about our last month and we think about the challenges that we faced and we think about maybe the things that we'll endure, I think what we're going to see over and over again is that the thing that endures is love, right? That what Jesus wants you and me to be thinking about in our day-to-day life is how we love other people. As a matter of fact, when we look at followers of Jesus and how they've shown up over the course of history, I'm not asking you to throw caution to the wind, but here's what's happened. Every time there's been a problem, every time there's been a challenge, every time there's been a pandemic, every time there's been a plague, it's followers of Jesus running to the problem. It's followers of Jesus stepping up and engaging and helping a watching world. And so for us, it can be so easy in our time and in our moment to define love as emotion, to define love as I'll pray for you, to define love as something that keeps me safe, something that keeps me comfortable. But I think if you asked Jesus to spell love, he would spell it G-I-V-E. It's about giving in our life. And it's about how you and I choose to give our time, give our money, give our stuff, and maybe most importantly, give our heart. Get into the mess and the challenge of other people's life. And if you're willing to do that, I think that we can see this different. Again, we can learn this incredibly important lesson that love is the lesson. Love has always been the lesson. I have a question for you. What are you an expert in? I think during this time, maybe you've become an expert in other stuff. Maybe you're an expert in making your sprinklers work, right? Maybe you're an expert in a video game that you have had a whole bunch of time to work on. Maybe you're an expert in something that you've had to do at work, but that list is pretty easy to come up with, right? Friends, family, they'll come to you to solve a problem about a thing that you're an expert in. But what if we became experts at love? What if, as followers of Jesus, we decided the thing that we're going to get really, really good at isn't just knowing something, it's showing something. It's truly loving our neighbors well, and it's loving one another modeled by the fact that Jesus laid down his life for us. What if we did that? As a matter of fact, when you kind of think back to this, right, what we're going through right now, it's unthinkable. And if we keep asking God, what is it we're supposed to learn? What is it we're supposed to do? We're just not listening because love has always been the lesson. Loving one another is what made the spark of the early church unstoppable. We think today that we must surrender truth to love, but when we lead with love, the truth comes alive. It's not sacrificing conviction for compassion. It's both together. And so when we say around here that Jesus makes life better, we mean it. But where you really experience that better is when we love one another. When you make time for that family in your community group. When you make time for that friend. When you make time for that brother and sister in Jesus and you go, I know this is inconvenient. I know this is difficult. I know there's other stuff that I could do right now. But I'm going to choose. I know the value. I'm going to choose to sacrificially love one another. And a world that assumes that we hate everything and everybody can see that we love everyone. That just like God loved us in Jesus when we didn't deserve it, we can love the whole world, recognizing that they're created in the image of God, no matter what they ever think or believe, no matter whether or not they like us or not. We can love them because God does. We love because he first loved us, and that hasn't changed. And so over the next few minutes, we're going to sing some songs together. And this first song we're going to sing is about this metaphor from the scriptures about new wine. Wine is this picture of a new life source, a new energy, a new perspective that God can give us. And for some of you, that's what you need. For some of you, it's easy to love people who are like you, or people who like you. But it's very difficult. It's difficult to love some people even in your own community of faith. It's difficult to love some people that are blasting you on Facebook. It's difficult to love some people that disagree with you politically. And Jesus is saying, love everyone. Sacrificially love everyone. So over the next few minutes as we sing together, I would encourage you, maybe it was that name, a name that came to your mind when I said, who's your neighbor? Whoever is on the list that you don't want to be, that's your neighbor. That person, maybe God's gonna challenge you to reach out to this week and show love. Remember, it's not an emotion, it's a decision. For others of you, it's gonna be, how are you gonna reorder your schedule this week? How are you gonna reprioritize your time or your money to show love to the people around you? And for some of you, it's gonna be taking a step into community right here at Eastern Hills to be able to truly rub elbows with and get to know people who are followers of Jesus, that when challenges like this come, you have people. And a watching world sees the way we love, and they see Jesus in it. Can I pray for you? God, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity after 112 days to have some folks in the room together. Thank you for the gift of your Son, the forgiveness that he offers. And I pray, God, that over these next few minutes, as we sing to you, you would reshape our understanding of what it means to walk with you. It's not just about knowing more, it's about loving more. Remind us of John's words inspired by you, that God, if we say we love you and we hate our brother, we're liars. Challenge us, God, to turn back to you in those places and pockets in our heart where we've been lying to ourselves for far too long. In Jesus' name, amen. Would you stand and sing with us?
In the crashing, in the pressing, you are making new wine. In the soil I now surrender, you are breaking new ground. So I yield to your care for me. When I trust you, I don't need to understand. So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing, all you've given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. In the crashing, in the pressing, you are making new wine. In the soil I now surrender, you are breaking new ground. You are breaking new ground. So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be. I came here with nothing, all you've given me. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Oh, Jesus, bring new wine out of me. Yeah. Jesus, bring new wine out of me. 'Cause where there is new wine, there is new power, there is new freedom, and the kingdom is here. I lay down my old fears to carry on new fire today. Where there is new wine, there is new power, there is new freedom, and the kingdom is here. I lay down my old ways to carry on new fire today. So make me a vessel, make me an offering, make me whatever you want me to be.
I've been held in your hand from the moment I wake up until I lay my head. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. Oh yeah. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Oh, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Yeah. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running, it keeps running after me. Thank you, God. All my life you have been faithful. Sing this out. All my life you have been so. Every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna sing, oh yes. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. Yes, you have. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Yes, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing, yes, God.
Amen. It is the goodness of God and his unbelievable, unending love for us that allows us to love one another. In the chat, Liz asked the question, what if we became experts in love? And Alexis wrote, the world would change for the better. That is so true, right? And so that's our challenge this week. How can we love one another? The people who live right next door to us, the people we interact with in the grocery store, the people that we see on social media. How can we love those people? And we have a next step for you. We would love for you to join us in our online class. All the information is at ehills.org/online class. Thursday night, 8 p.m. on Facebook. We would love to have you join us there as we take next steps into loving one another. And I just want to say that everything we've gotten to do here in person this weekend, all the stuff we've got going on online still, community and care and all the different things that are happening online, they all happen because of your generosity. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for continuing to give to Eastern Hills. If you've never given before, you can go to ehills.org/give. All the information is there. There's an instructional video on how to give online if you'd like to do that. And then if this is your first time or one of your first times at Eastern Hills, I just want to encourage you to stay online, watch online the Connections Point video that's going to roll in just a minute. It is a great place to figure out where you can connect, where you can receive care, how you can connect into this church, even in this virtual time. And we would love for you to be a part of that in just a minute online. But hey, thank you everyone for being here this week. Thanks for joining us online. We can't wait to see you guys next weekend.
Welcome to Connection Point. My name's Dustin, and I'm the Connections Pastor here. And if you're looking to get involved today, you came to the right place.
And my name's Liz, and I'm the community pastor here. And over the next few minutes, we're going to give you some information about some ways that you can take some easy next steps here at Eastern Hills. These next steps are really designed for you to grow deeper in your walk with Jesus and also to connect here at the church. So first, we would love to share a little bit more about who we are with you.
Here at Eastern Hills, we want to help everyone experience that Jesus makes life better. And honestly, when we follow him, he makes us better at life. You might be coming from a background where you've been hurt by church in the past, and you might even be thinking, if that's what better life looks like, I'm not sure that's what I want. And you might even also think, hey, if I follow Jesus, is he really going to solve all my problems? I don't think that's how it works. And honestly, you're right. Jesus is not going to necessarily make our life easy, but we really believe that when we follow him and commit our full life to God, he makes our life better and makes us better at life.
So today we want to offer you 4 steps that you can take to start growing in a relationship with Jesus here at Eastern Hills. Those 4 steps are serving as a volunteer, joining a group, giving generously, and then also steps that you can take as a family. You can find links to all of these steps at ehills.org/next. So Dustin, do you want to share a little bit more about what it looks like to serve at Eastern Hills?
Yeah, so serving at Eastern Hills normally looks a little different. We have opportunities all over the building and in different places throughout the week and on the weekend. But because of COVID, things don't look quite the same right now. But for you, that actually makes things a lot easier because the best place for you to get involved and volunteer here at Eastern Hills is on a weekend. We would love to have you come be here in the building, greeting, welcoming, helping people find a seat, and just creating an amazing experience for people as they walk in, or helping online, hosting one of our streams on Facebook or YouTube. We think God built us to serve one another, and when we do that, he uses that service to grow us personally into the person that he designed us to be. So you get to serve other people in the community and you get to grow yourself. We'd love for you to do that, and you can find the link to that volunteer sign up at ehills.org/next.
Another way that you can take a next step here at Eastern Hills is by joining a group, and we really believe that groups are an essential way to connect with God and in community. When you join a group, you have the opportunity to surround yourself with people who will walk alongside you in your faith, people who will encourage you and challenge you to grow spiritually, people who will read the Bible with you and pray for you, people who will do life with you, whether you're in a great season or whether you're in a really hard season. We've seen some incredible relationships grow out of our groups at Eastern Hills, and we would love for you to take a next step to join a group to be a part of that too. So you can head to ehills.org/next to learn more about how to join one of our groups.
Next up is generosity, and this can be a little bit of an awkward conversation when it comes to church. You might be thinking, here we go again, another church that just wants my money so their pastor can buy a jet. Or maybe somebody in the past told you if you don't give a certain percentage of your money to God, he's not going to bless you, he's going to be mad at you. We believe God designed us to be generous. When we give our resources away, and honestly, when we give our whole life away, we can find more and more contentment and joy the less and less we have. And so we want to give you an opportunity today to be generous and start to experience some of that better life. If you go to ehills.org/next and make a $20 donation, your full gift will go to Marketplace, which is a weekly food pantry that provides groceries to families who need it all over our community. Your $20 actually can go even further than if you went to the store and bought it yourself. Because of our partnership with Food Bank of the Rockies, we can stretch that money and provide enough food for a family of 4 for an entire week.
Which I can't even feed my family of 4 for an entire week. So that is an incredible way to help.
Yeah, it's so amazing to get to be a part of, and we want to steward our resources and your resources well. And so if you want to give and start being a part of how we serve our community here, we would love for you to do that. You can go to ehills.org/next and find the link to do that today.
And the last next step that you can take is actually for you as a family. At Eastern Hills, we believe the whole family matters and was built to pursue God together. We go about partnering with you and your family by creating amazing age-appropriate spaces for each kid to grow in their faith, and also by coming alongside you as a parent or a guardian to help you become the hero in your child's story. So you can head to ehills.org/next to learn more about our YouTube channels that we have for kids of all ages, whether that content is live or on demand. Kids can connect anywhere at home. You can also find a way to sign up for our family newsletter at that link as well. We would love for you to take a next step with us as a family.
Thanks so much for spending part of your day with us. We hope that as you take a next step here at Eastern Hills, you can experience that Jesus makes life better and maybe even find ways that he makes you better at life. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.